Returning to a childhood vacation spot, Gordon was filled with nostalgia when he took a trip to Blackpool in December 2004. With 12 million visitors each year, the seaside town has over 650 places to eat. But Gordon is only interested in visiting one of them, award-winning Clubway 41, Blackpool's Restaurant of the Year. Co-owners Dawn Brindley and her boyfriend Dave Jackson pooled their savings, including selling their homes. But customer numbers are low, and they are turning over just £500 a week. One of the problems facing the first floor restaurant may be a lack of curb appeal.
Is that it? That can't be it. Actually looks like a shop.
And customers who make it through the doors find an expensive menu compared to the many restaurants around them.
It's packed with costly, out-of-season ingredients that reflect in its overpriced menu.
Gordon arrives and gets directions to the restaurant from the cafe downstairs. He finds Dave in the third-floor kitchen and asks to sample some of his more inventive dishes. A nervous Dave seems out of practice at cooking for customers, let alone a famous chef, but fumbles together the first course, salmon flakes with strawberries. Gordon can't understand what was going through the chef's mind putting that combination together, and suggests it should be thrown off the pier into the sea. Next up is the pork medallions with mash, parsnip crisps, and a brie and nectarine sauce. The pork is tough and not tender enough to give to a dog, and the parsnip crisps are, well, they are certainly not crispy. As for the sauce, the brie and nectarine combination is as disgusting as it sounds. He decides to skip dessert. Heading back to the kitchen, Chef Ramsay tells Dave that the brie and nectarine sauce was one of the worst he has ever tasted, and that the dish was chewy and badly put together. But he is nothing but fair.
A lot of work to do. By the way, the mash wasn't bad.
A rare compliment. But overall, Gordon is mystified that Clubway 41 won an award. And he's pretty sure the residents of the town don't know about their award-winning restaurant. Heading out and about, he asks locals if they have heard of the venue, and is met by blank stares. Back at the restaurant, Chef Ramsay looks through the nomination forms that won the restaurant the award, which he is surprised to find is a real prize.
Eye-catching decor. Someone's pulling my fucking plonker.
The comments rave about the fresh food, calling a visit to Clubway 41 an unforgettable experience. Gordon agrees with the last comment, but probably not for the same reasons. The next morning, Chef Ramsay starts the day feeding the seagulls, before heading back to the restaurant to feed some diners. Downstairs, the Clubway 41 cafe is busy, which is a good thing. It's the only thing keeping the upstairs restaurant afloat financially. Dave admits that he feels destroyed after Gordon's critique of his food the day before, and could easily choose to never cook again. Chef Ramsay encourages him to rediscover his manhood and bounce back. Gordon reveals that he wants to check Dave's true capability as a chef, so he's invited 20 people for lunch. He gives Dave a 90-minute window to get each diner in and out. Flustered at the thought of a full dining room, Gordon brings in backup, Nigel, the short-order cook from the downstairs cafe. Nigel single-handedly cooks up for up to 300 cafe customers on a busy Saturday, and enjoys the buzz of being so busy. Back upstairs, Dave is panicking because he doesn't have the nectarines he needs to prepare his famous brie and nectarine sauce. Ramsay suggests putting together a rosemary gravy instead, which seems to fluster him once more. Since catering school in the 1970s, Dave has had almost zero training, and under pressure, his lack of confidence shows. But he defends the bizarre dishes that Dawn creates using her vivid imagination, which he feels work well. Gordon points out that the restaurant is empty, so they certainly don't seem to work well for the customers. Good point. The lunch customers arrive. As dancers in a local show, they are not only hungry, they are in a rush to get back for their evening performance. The restaurant is only at 50% capacity, so between Dave and Nigel, lunch service should be a breeze. But it isn't. Dave starts flapping because multiple orders have come in at the same time, which is standard practice. Almost 30 minutes into service, nothing has left the kitchen. Dave blames his panic on the fact that he hasn't received any feedback from Dawn. Gordon tells him he's making hard work of a half-full dining room. It took over an hour for the first 10 people to get their food, and 45 minutes for the rest. With 15 minutes to go, most of them haven't even had dessert. As the tourist season is coming to an end, Chef Ramsay is concerned that the restaurant won't survive the quieter winter months. Gordon feels that he must simplify the food to give Dave any chance of coping. Gordon invites Dave and Nigel to a taste test, teaching them to rely on their senses. He offers them a series of delicious and disgusting food combinations, including Dave's pork, brie, and nectarine concoction. He identifies it as cheese, pineapple, and shellfish. Gordon is suitably unimpressed.
When you brush your teeth in the morning, do you use toothpaste or cigarettes? Because you've got a mouth like a cow's backside.
At least they both identify one of the combinations as terrible: strawberry, salmon, and watercress, and admit they wouldn't pay to eat it. Now that Gordon has opened Dave's eyes to their current menu disasters, he needs to make sure that front of house manager Dawn doesn't come up with any more. While he admires her energy for the business, he tells her that Dave isn't capable of carrying out her exotic tasting ideas, and the business will close if they don't get the menu under control. Next, Chef Ramsay challenges Dave to make a broccoli soup using as many or as few ingredients as he wishes. Dave gets to work, creating a simple soup containing 16 ingredients. Gordon walks him through his own recipe, which uses just 3 ingredients: broccoli, salt, and water. It's a quicker and far cheaper recipe, and it's delicious. Well, Dawn doesn't think so, but Gordon has little respect for her sense of taste, as we know. He tells her to stay out of the kitchen. It's time to think of a new name for the restaurant, one that doesn't sound like a strip joint. He considers Dawn's surname, but settles on Dave's. The new restaurant will be called Jackson's. Is co-owner Dawn okay with that name?
You're gonna have to marry me, babe, aren't you? So I'm a Jackson too.
Even more pressure now. Everything costs me money.
Dawn agrees to use her boyfriend's name as long as marriage is on the cards. He tells Gordon that she's the love of his life and agrees they should take a day off to get married. Jackson's it is. The next day, Gordon and Dave take a walk on the beach. Dave bravely admits that he's lost touch with the town and is a long way from serving the good, honest food he'd like the restaurant to be known for, and has an unusual way of demonstrating how to bounce back up again. It's time for the Clubway 41 sign to come down and the restaurant to get a drastic revamp. The street frontage is an excellent feature and isn't being used effectively in the evenings. As first-floor restaurants are known for being hard to fill, Gordon wants to move the restaurant downstairs, operating in the same space the successful cafe uses during the day. The owners both agreed to give it a try. The next night, 50 influential locals will be visiting the newly named restaurant for a big relaunch. Gordon suggests making a lamb casserole, something Dave hasn't done since catering college, 30 years earlier. The new menu will feature fresh, inexpensive ingredients used to create dishes that can be prepared in advance, taking the pressure off the chefs. But there's getting back to basics, and they're starting from scratch. Chef Ramsay is forced to teach Dave to fillet a fish, and gets frustrated at his lack of knowledge and ability. They move on from fish to mussels, which Dave tells Gordon he's never prepared. When Ramsay expresses disbelief, Dave gets frustrated right back.
Are you going to tone your voice down, or are you
Yes.
going to shout like some dick?
I'll shout like some dick and then I'll calm down.
Right.
After their very controlled and British argument, the chefs get back to cooking the perfect mussel soup. They sit down to chat, and Ramsay tells Dave honestly that though he wants to be a great chef, it won't ever happen. He just isn't capable. They really need a new chef, but they can't afford one. Gordon takes him to the circus to learn some skills in concentration and juggling multiple plates at a time. And after a few fails, he gets there in the end. The cafe is given a facelift, with warm colors, textured blinds, and colorful tablecloths making a warm and inviting space to tempt diners through the door. To help Dave cope with a full house, Gordon brings in pre-proportioning, so individual meals can be reheated as needed in hot water. Surely that's pretty foolproof. Dave and Nigel are ready to go, and the new Jackson sign is unveiled just in time for opening. The first customers start to arrive, and Gordon becomes nervous that Dave is on show in the open kitchen, but hopes an audience might keep him in line. Dave starts confidently and appears to have his restaurant under control. and Nigel is turning out steaks with ease. But just as Gordon starts to relax, the kitchen begins to struggle. An hour after they ordered, multiple tables are still waiting for starters, and some customers are then told their main course choices are now sold out. Not ideal. Luckily, Dawn's front-of-house team has kept the customers happy with free glasses of champagne, and diners agree that the food was worth waiting for. Dave and Nigel have pulled it off in the kitchen. The next morning, Jackson's receives a booking for 10 based on relaunch night. That's a positive first step. Gordon arrives at the restaurant in a good mood and brings Dave a stuffed monkey to celebrate the previous night's success. He congratulates Dawn and Dave on the parts they played at the relaunch, but he tells Dave that as soon as the finances allow, he needs to look for a head chef and stay away from nectarines. 8 months later, Chef Ramsay returns to Jackson's after the quiet winter season and is delighted to find them open. The restaurant still looks great, and Dawn and Dave are pleased to see him, but there's no sign of assistant chef Nigel.
And where's Nige?
Well, Nigel's gone because...
Nigel's gone because I think it's probably best left like that.
Very mysterious. They made it through winter, but they're down a chef, and even worse, a bus stop has been put outside their front door, blocking the frontage and filling the restaurant with fumes if they open doors or windows. Customer numbers drop again, and the evening service was shut down just 2 months after Gordon's visit to cut costs. And they're back to serving frozen cafe food. Gordon suggests that the couple embrace the influx of buses instead of being infuriated by them, and takes them outside to check out an advert he has placed on one. He's offering free kids' meals when adults order from the specials menu. Dawn is a natural at chatting to passers-by, and Gordon suggests she hits the street to advertise every day. He wants the restaurant to stand out among the fast food outlets, and convinces her to push the fresh, homemade food once again. A tearful Dawn agrees to give it a go again, and in the kitchen, Dave thinks the summer season might make it worth trying again too. Gordon sits down to sample the fish and chips, which he enjoys, and says he might even ask Dave for the recipe. He leaves the couple with a rule book, filled with his top tips for their continued success. Dave admits he wouldn't have bought the restaurant if he knew how tough it would be. He and Dawn are determined to make it work. Dawn gives Gordon an enthusiastic kiss goodbye, and gives her boyfriend a slightly less enthusiastic embrace as Ramsay walks away. Gordon visited Clubway 41 in December 2004, though the episode wasn't aired until March 2006. It achieved a respectable 7 out of 10 rating on IMDb, and was voted Season 3's best episode by fans of the show. There were a few common themes for fan comments on the show. The first was that owner Dave looked older than 46, and his girlfriend Dawn looked younger than 30, which obviously led the Ramsay fans to point out how youthful he himself looks during this episode, as he always seems to. That might not be entirely thanks to nature or good genes. Gordon has admitted in the past to undergoing laser wrinkle removal, on the advice of Simon Cowell. Whatever he does, it does seem to work. Back to the restaurant. The Clubway 41 episode is also noted for having one of the strangest and most awkward arguments ever seen. Gordon was accused of provoking Dave to react, which he finally did by pulling faces and announcing he was planning to be an idiot.
I don't think you can actually cook.
If you'd have fucking talked
If you can't cook a fucking mussel...
you had fucking
Yes.
talked yeah.
And then he would calm down, which he finally did. No fist flying here. The episode aired 14 months after it was first filmed, which is an unusual delay. According to Channel 4, the delay was due to Gordon's busy schedule limiting his availability for filming. Unusually, Dawn and Dave didn't take part in any pre-publicity for the program. That's because they weren't happy with their portrayal on the show. And neither was Blackpool's head of tourism, who was filmed for the show, but ended up on the cutting room floor. The owners were unhappy that Dave was shown as incompetent in the kitchen, and revealed that Gordon's team had actually prepared the food for the relaunch, presumably because Gordon was forced to teach him to cook it from scratch. Blackpool's tourist board was also unimpressed, and defended its processes for making awards, which Gordon had gently mocked. The Kitchen Nightmares team was quick to defend the show as an honest and fair representation of what happened during filming. The newly named Jackson's was only open during the day, and customer numbers were still low. Was their appearance on TV enough to turn their fortunes around? Sadly not. Jackson's closed its doors in September 2006, just 6 months after the episode aired. Between 2007 and 2013, the building was home to a cafe called the Market Street Diner. And since 2022, it has been a traditional fish and chip shop called the Frying Squad, which is rated 3 out of 5 on TripAdvisor, mainly due to poor staff attitude rather than food quality. What happened to the team behind Clubway 41 and Jackson's? We will start with Dawn and Dave. They don't have any social media presence, but we do know that the couple split up, apparently before they got married, so Jackson's was never run by the Jacksons. There are lots of rumors online that Dave passed away in 2022, but we can confirm those aren't true. While he looks similar to the Dave Jackson listed, the dates don't add up. Wherever they are, we wish them both well, and hope they've moved on from their kitchen nightmares experience. There were lots of questions about what happened to the cafe chef, Nigel, who stepped in to assist Dave in the restaurant, but was removed from the team without explanation. Following his appearance on the show, Nigel spoke to local press about Gordon's inspirational influence during filming. Before he left Jackson's for personal reasons, Nigel was apparently offered a job at Gordon's London restaurant, Claridge's. But he chose to turn down the once-in-a-lifetime offer and instead work at the staff canteen of a local theme park before opening his own cafe in the area. So why would someone turn down the opportunity to work at one of London's most prestigious restaurants under a celebrity chef? It looks like it was linked to those mysterious personal reasons. Nigel admitted indecently assaulting 2 teenage girls in separate attacks between 2001 and 2003, a year before the Clubway 41 episode of Kitchen Nightmares was filmed. He was arrested in 2017 and jailed for 5 years and 4 months for his crimes. The chef was arrested at that time on suspicion of the murder of another teenager, 14-year-old Charlene Downs, who was last seen leaving her Blackpool home in November 2003. In a strange and distressing case, 2 men were initially charged with the missing girl's murder in 2006, disposing of her body using a mincing machine at their kebab shop. But the case against them was dropped after issues with the police's surveillance techniques came to light. Nigel knew Charlene, and his top-floor flat backed onto a secluded alleyway linked to her disappearance, which was also the site of attacks on other local girls.
The day Charlene disappeared, she was seen 3 times in the area of the alleyway.
He was released after 3 days of police interviews without charge. In 2023, the investigative journalist behind a 2019 documentary that named Nigel as a likely perpetrator changed his story. He announced he believed Nigel was innocent and that the police had used him as a distraction technique. The case remains unsolved to this day, and Charlene's distraught parents continue to appeal for information 20 years later. No happy endings to this one, which turned out to be a real life, as well as a kitchen, nightmare.